these down if there's tears and stuff. Like I'm not gonna expose you to the world.
Right.
Put me on blast.
No. I mean on the testimonials. Like I'll cut it down and make it sound really nice and pretty if I ever use it as a promo or something like that. But I'm not gonna expose you. Part of it's for me to understand your takeaways, like while it's fresh in your mind, while the emotions are there, like while your energy is high, like for me to get the feedback that I need to be able to run these well. And then the testimonials, Sarah knows, like I've had Sarah record testimonials because you guys are all so similar. Like we really are birds of a feather. And it's important to be able to hear that you're not alone. So like testimonials are important for belief for new people. And if you believe in that process, you believe in not just doing the work, but then passing that gift. So that's part of it. So yes, I'll edit them down to make them sound
Eloquent.
beautiful.
Right.
Yes,
I
nice
mean,
and
I would
eloquent.
like script out what I would say and then like
That's
maybe
fine.
read it, maybe read you. the
That's fine.
testimonial.
I'll have the questions out there. I'm gonna write them at the end of this
Right.
on paper.
Because
Also,
otherwise, when I'm on video, I feel like, I don't know.
Yes, you'll have the
And I feel like
question
sometimes
sheets
I make
guide
up
you.
shit that may not really be true.
Yeah.
So we'll let the people that need to leave go first, and you can
Just make it
reference those
sound good.
questions. Beautiful. So this is the roadmap highway page in your workbook. If you want to use that, you can also take notes and then go back to it. It's not something that you need to necessarily fill all out right now, but I get excited to talk about this because this really changed my life. In was not expecting to feel emotional about this one. But for me, this was more than a decade of feeling like I'm always off track. I'm always fucking up. I can do everything right, but still miss something. And if I miss one thing on my list, I failed. And it wasn't good enough. And so the feeling of, and this applied not just to my like life in terms of like my relationships with people and like with myself, but diets, like that was a big pattern that I played out over and over again. Was like start feeling good, feeling energized, feeling motivated. I have all the tools in front of me. I have everything set up to not fail. I've made this foolproof plan perfect. And if I can just stick to this exactly and do it and repeat it, then I'll be exactly who I need to be. And if you can imagine it, it becomes a tightrope that you walk on. This checklist of things that I need to do to be the best version of me sounds really nice. Have a morning wake up time. Have a morning routine, a 10-step morning routine where I work out and I breathe and I stretch and I prep my kids' lunches and I make breakfast and I journal and I go on a walk and I do my hair and I wash my face, and that's my morning routine. And then if I do my other things and then I do my evening routine perfectly, I won the day and I'm right on track. How many times have you heard yourself say I'm on track or I'm off track? And what I found was I would nail it, and then I would almost nail it the next day, and then something would happen and I would miserably fuck up. Whether it was myself doing it or the world happening, I lost control. And so my life revolved around control. And that's ultimately what it comes back to. Especially if we had the past that we've had. That sense of control is communicated to the brain as a sense of safety. Because if I can predict what's going to happen, I feel safe. And so the uncertainty, the unpredictability, the world happening is a scary place to be. It feels very out of control. And if it feels out of control, I can't manage what my homeostasis within myself. I didn't have that within myself. It really depended on if everything went as planned. And so walking that tightrope and falling off every week and then starting over again was my life. of falling off track and, okay, I'm gonna restart. You got it this time. You can do it. All you have to do, and then it became, you're a fucking idiot. Why can't you do this? Why can't you get this right? Why can't you figure this out? This is so goddamn easy. All you have to do is this, and this. And if you just do that, you'll be fine. So the mindset that I created is what you're looking at. And instead of a tightrope, I've given myself a highway. And I've given myself a fast lane and a slow lane and a get out of the way, fucking idiot lane. I've given myself room to weave. And so to open this message, 2 quotes come to mind. Robert Frost, 2 roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that's made all the difference. Go read the whole poem. Because there's some insight there, and that's all I'll say about that. But the beauty in the highway, and if your mind's eye would rather see this as a forest of trees, that's fine too. I can see it both ways. The beauty of the forest, the beauty of the highway, is as long as you're going in the right general direction, you can't really get lost along the way. You literally can never be off track because you are the only one living your life. You are the only one on this journey. No one is on your path. And so however you choose to weave through that forest, through those lanes, if you're headed in the right general direction, you're gonna get there. And there is no wrong way to get there. I'll say it again, you can never be off track. It's literally impossible. And repeating that to myself until I believed it, once I believed it, that was the most freeing concept to understand and to truly feel that I'm never off track. The mistakes I've made, the decisions I've made, hindsight might make me think that it's the wrong way. But the reality is, in that moment, making those decisions, it's brought me to where I am now. I am not off track, ever, no matter what I do. That feels good to believe. What's meant for you won't miss you. It's another one that I've come to believe deep in my soul. What's meant for me will not miss me. I have an impossible decision to make. I have an impossible life to lead. Well, if that's the case, then whatever I choose is exactly what I'm supposed to choose. It's either going to teach me something that brings me closer to where I want to go, or it's going to straight shoot me there. But either way, I'm going to get there because no one else is on this exact specific journey but me. And understanding that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. At any given point in that forest, on that highway, it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. The feeling of I should be blank by now, here by now, doing this, accomplishing this. It's just an expectation. It's an alternate reality you've constructed in your mind. Is it true or is it a story? I should be here by now. I should have done this back then. I should have done this already. Life is uncertain, and that's hard to grapple with if you've grown up needing control, feeling out of control, being okay with the fact that life is unpredictable, that life is uncertain and there's no way of planning it. there's only so much we can do. That's why I have the strategic planning the way that I do, is because it leaves room for margin of error. It leaves room for not everything is going to go as planned. And that's part of the plan. That's where I'm supposed to be. So releasing the expectations. Because where I should be is an expectation that I've created. It's not real. Who said? Who said I should be somewhere by now? Me. Why? Because I've created an expectation around it. When we're disappointed in ourselves, in other people, when we bring a negative or a positive emotion, just in general, to like, this is good or this is bad, it's all rooted in what your expectation of it should be. If I have an expectation that someone should do something and then they don't, then I have a negative emotion attached to that. But it's all a construct that I've created in my mind of what something should or shouldn't be. So the emotions that I carry with me are really wound up in expectations. And if I can drop some of those expectations and understand that this is just my path, and if I step here, I'm still on my track, and if I step here, I'm still on my track because it's mine, then I'm never off track. It's all part of it. And there aren't positive or negative emotions associated with it because there are no expectations of where I'm supposed to be. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, for whatever that means or whatever that is. So releasing the idea of I should be here or I shouldn't have done this. When you stay so tied up in that, you're living two worlds. You're living reality and you're living a fantasy of what should have happened. That's all expectations. That whole expectation and emotions around it are the fantasy land of what didn't happen. And the reality is, it did. You are. You're here. That is part of your journey. Those mistakes are part of your journey. The uncertainty is part of your journey, and all of it puts you exactly where you're meant to be. And it's trusting the universe, trusting God, trusting the plan that this uncertainty is part of it. The not knowing is part of it. The only seeing the forest in front of you is part of it. And trusting that the next step you take is taking you where you want to go. The way you have trust, the way you create that trust is with the roadmap. Because it's hard to surrender that control if you have no idea what's at the end. If you have no idea what direction you're headed. So, if we can go towards the light, go towards the best version of you, if we know that at the end of the forest, the end of the maze, the end of the highway, I'm getting to the best version of me, and I know what that looks like, then the decisions I make, I know and can trust are taking me towards that person. It's hard to surrender control and just be willy-nilly with your life because it might take you down a very deep, dark path. But if you know which direction you're headed, then you can trust that the decisions you make between here and there are taking you closer to where you're meant to be. Great book. I wasn't expecting to be great. It was Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. It's a great book.
I've heard really good things about that
It
book.
was amazing. And a quote from that, he says, map your direction so that you can swerve in the lanes. Creativity still needs borders. Individuality still needs resistance. And so if you're able to get clear on where you want to go, you can give yourself the freedom to swerve. And so instead of walking this tightrope of having to check every box, having to do everything, you actually just give yourself a shoulder on the road, on either side. It's going to shake the hell out of you when you swerve too far, but for the most part, you've got room to swing and just be a human fucking being. Because you're going in the same general direction. No matter if you're in the fast lane or the slow lane or the 10 lanes in between, you're going the right way. And so this is the grace that the tightrope doesn't give you. The tightrope gives you 0.0% margin for error. You make one mistake, you failed. The highway gives you a lot of fucking room. And so, in my mind, when I think about the highway, I think we tend to think about all the failures. What does 2 lakhs look like? I say 2 lakhs, that's just my vocabulary. But so one shoulder of the road on your highway is going to be like, what does 2 lakhs, what does 2 little rules look like for me? That's where we usually start to criticize ourselves, right? It's like, I didn't do this, I didn't do this, I didn't do this. So 2 lakhs for me would be like not taking a shower for 3 days. I suffer with depression and anxiety, and I also just get into a flow state where, like, even something like this, as healing as it is, I had to remind myself to take a shower this morning because I get so into it. And so 2 lakhs would be not showering for 3 days. A full day of nothing nutritious. That would be 2 lakhs. That would be like a red flag. This can also be like red flags. But it's your shoulder of the road. It's like, if I go a full day with no nutrients, it's as if I just hit the bumpy shoulder of the road. Where I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
The whole day.
I'm gonna put a vegetable in my body before I go to sleep.
This goes back to your standards.
Correct.
I was gonna ask you to touch on that again.
Correct. So it's like the standards I've set for myself. Your standards go on the shoulders because that's what keeps you on the highway. If I have nothing important to do on my plate, that's 2 lakhs. If I get into a headspace where I'm just like, life is what it is, man. Like, I've been there. I've been too far on one end to where I'm like, I don't have any responsibilities. I don't have any obligations. Fuck the world. Fuck everybody I care about. You've probably seen me in that phase where I'm like, I don't give 2 fucks about nobody. If I have no responsibility, nothing on my plate, that's going to be something that wakes me up and says, okay, give yourself a project. Give yourself something to look forward to. But I think the shoulder of the road, this is where it's like, this side's going to be easier for you to figure out. What are the red flags where you feel like you're failing? Be gracious with yourself. What's like the really, really end of the one side of the highway where you're like, I need you to notice these things. Like when we think about our spouse, it's like, how can I give my spouse an indicator? It's like, hey, if I haven't cooked all week, ask me how I'm doing. Because I love cooking. And if I don't cook something all week, if we're eating takeout and drive through all week, that's a red flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be concerned about my health.
Mm.
Right? But if I don't cook every day, I'm just in my lanes. So like, what's the shoulder of the road that's gonna be like, oh shit, call a flag. Stop what you're doing. Course correct. Because then you're like making a U-turn. Then you're not going the right way. These are things that take you towards the best version of you. So all I'm doing is setting up a boundary with myself to say, this is 2 lakhs. Once you get past that point, if I go 5 days without any sort of exercise, now it's 3. Now it's 3 for myself because I know that movement helps me flush out toxins. It does a lot for my mental clarity. So like it used to be that I would go 5 days. If I went 5 days without the gym, then on day 5, I'm gonna go to the gym because I just need it for my mind to clear my head. Now it's 3, but it's not gym, it's movement. Right? The one I think we don't think about is the other side of the highway. What's too rigid? Where am I not showing myself enough grace? So for me, it would be like, if I ever start weighing all of my food again, that's a flag on the play. That's too rigid for me. If I'm tracking everything, measuring everything. Like I might measure out 4 ounces of chicken and a cup of potatoes, but like there was a time where I was weighing my onions. that's too rigid. That's not taking me towards the best version of me. And that's not giving myself room to go to a restaurant. That's heartbreaking, but I've been there. So like that would be a shoulder of the road where it's like, if I can't eat out, if I'm not allowing myself, going to the gym every day, too rigid for me. Going to the gym, holding myself to a standard of going to the gym every day is hitting that shoulder of the road of like, you are not living the best version of your life being a human being. If I'm putting too much on my plate, overcommitting. Once I start hearing that voice in my head that says, you just don't have time. That's a slap in the face, that's a wake up, that's a flag on the play. So understanding what the boundaries are of like, what does the worst version of me look like on both sides? What's an indicator that I'm getting too tight with myself, too needing control with myself? But if I let all control go, you might go off to the other side. So it's getting really clear on those boundaries. And your standards help with that. It's like my goals might be more in the fast lane. If I'm really hungry after my goals and I'm training for a marathon and I'm wanting to be the top salesperson in my company, that's great. I'm living life in the fast lane, but I need to know what too much looks like. And I might be in a season of, I'm not moving my body so much. I'm eating out a lot. I'm hanging out with people that I love. I'm traveling a lot. I'm not cooking very much. I'm eating other people's food. I'm eating restaurant food. But if I don't cook for 5 days, that's gonna send me into a spiral. So I need to know how to keep myself in the lanes, but guess what? I've given myself 12 lanes to weave through. I've given myself the opportunity and the freedom to live my human experience. I think a lot of times, especially with perfectionists, with the controlling mindset, it's like once I commit to being this version of me, then the other parts of me that are very real versions of me feel guilty for showing up. This is why I'm not 100% sober. That would be too rigid for me because I want the freedom to get drunk and smoke weed and do what I want to do. But if I'm doing it every day, that's too lax. So I've created, and it's going to be different for everybody. But if the little like, let's Netflix and stone and chill version of me wants to come out once in a while, I don't want to shame that version of me. So I need to be very clear on what too far gone is so that I can let that version of me come out and exist without shame or judgment. So being really clear on what are the borders, what are the boundaries, what's the shoulder of the road on both sides. Because I want to be able to work hard and be a high achiever as well. That's a very real part of me. But if it starts triggering my perfectionism, that's going to be too much. And I need to know what that looks like. With the standards, sometimes it's a cart before the horse situation. So I'm not getting too specific with standards because you might have a really clear understanding of what your standards, what's most important for you to make you the best version of you, and that'll help you do the highway assignment. The highway assignment might help you get clear on your standards. So it might just be brain dumping what different parts of you look like and what the no-no parts of you look like and what the parts of you that you like look like. And that's going to give you clarity on your standards as well. So it might be that one helps the other. Things in the middle, it's like having ice cream, drinking my greens every day. That's not too rigid. But like once I start like, I got to do all of these, no matter what, even if I'm blackout drunk, like then there's shame if I miss it. Like, no. Doing my skincare, reading 10 pages a day, being aware of my movement and my steps, just the awareness, getting fresh air, journaling. These are open-ended things that can exist in my highway that I can weave around. I might not journal every day, but I want to journal regularly. And it's okay to just say regularly. I'm giving myself the grace to leave and be a human being. And that's okay. So that's it. You create this highway so that you're never off track. The last analogy I'll give you that I really like, that clients and I have talked about, is like the literal term of being off track. We think of like a train track, right? So if a train is going, I don't know how fucking fast they go, 400 miles an hour down a track, and someone pulls the emergency brake, does it automatically do a U-turn, fall off track, fall into a ditch? No. It takes a long time still to come to a stop. And in that time, it's still going in the right direction. So the wires being crossed of what off track even really means, to further prove my point, you really can't be off track. The train doesn't ever literally fall off the train tracks and start plowing in the opposite direction, but we tell ourselves that if we miss something, we're off track. All of a sudden we've lost all progress, all momentum, and we're going backwards at full speed. The reality is, if we fall off, we're still going in the right direction. And we still have some momentum here, because everything else that I'm doing regularly is giving me that momentum, so that if I miss something, it might slow me down and I have an opportunity to course correct, but I'm still going the right way. It's being able to see that and understand that, like, I'm not perfect. That doesn't exist. Life is unpredictable. I don't know what's gonna happen. Tomorrow, my emergency brake might get yanked. But because I do these things consistently in my life, regularly, I can trust that even when shit hits the fan and the emergency brake gets pulled in my life, I'm still going in the right direction. And by creating this system with myself, I know what too far on either end looks like. And I can just exist in the space between, and that's a really freeing place to be.
I'm so glad you're recording this.
True balance.
Hear all that all over again.
That's balance. That's true balance, is getting off the tightrope and putting yourself on a highway with some grace to just be yourself, to be all versions of yourself.
What do you call this middle square? It's like too lax, too rigid, and what's
Just right for me.
just right for me.
Best version of me.
Okay.
BVOM. That's where you can write in, like, the things that are taking you in the direction that you want to go. And the shoulders of the road are the things that would be putting you in a U-turn. So the highway is the best version of you. And the edges are the things that are going to take you away from the best version of you. And so as you fill that out, it helps you get clarity. Again, you can release that control, surrender to the universe, trust that you're exactly where you're meant to be if you have clarity. If you know what to look for, if you know what your red flags, where your shoulders of the road are, you really can let go and enjoy your life and know and feel like you're on track. You're exactly where you're supposed to be, because you know what to look for if you hit either side, and you can trust that you're going the right way. That's how you create that trust and surrender to the universe, is understanding that you're going the right way, and the best version of you gives you clarity on that. Any thoughts, any questions?
I think that was really powerful for
Yes.
me.
I love
Yeah,
this.
my mind feels a little blank right now.
Great,
Yeah, it makes me feel really good.
great.
Makes me want to get sure about what my standards are.
Yeah.
Makes me
me
feel like I don't
too.
know myself at all.
And it also it makes
It's a good,
it's
it's a good
it
place
was
to be.
I've
super
known it.
easy, and I'll show Nick these things, even though he probably list them himself.
What's too lax?
This is a sign of when I'm in depression,
Mm-hmm.
or it's gonna
Amen.
it's about to
Yeah,
I like-
I'm
yeah, I
about
like
to
that.
spiral.
like that.
right.
If I haven't changed clothes in 2 days, I need to put an outfit on. Like even
Right.
if it's leggings and a
Right.
even if
Right.
it was what I was wearing yesterday,
Right.
that's getting
Oh
dressed
my
for
god,
me.
I do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So being aware of these things versus feeling like you're a failure for not walking this tightrope. It's giving yourself the space to just be yourself, whatever version of you might show up. This is how you find freedom in the sensual part of yourself. What's a red flag? What's too much? What's not enough? What's just right? And you're allowing all parts of yourself to exist and be alive and be okay. Because you know what to look for that's going to take you away from who you want to be. So it's okay to have this sexual, sensual side of myself. The red flag would be whatever that is for you that's going to take you away from the best version of you. You can apply that to being playful, being a high achiever, being a good mom, like good mom to my detriment. So what's too rigid look like? Right? So like you can get clear on all these versions of yourself so that you know what the guardrails are. Take some time with this. I'm gonna set up the tripod outside. I'm gonna write out the questions so that you guys can look at the questions. Anybody have a time check just from where they are? No, what time is it?
12:48.
Oh, okay, perfect. So at 2 o'clock we'll start lunch class, and then so between now and then 12:48, it's about an hour. Work on this. You guys knock out your testimonials, and then grab a bite before you hit the road. Yeah. So we'll meet in the kitchen at 2, and you just use this time to start getting clear on some of this stuff. Or to do whatever work you need to do.
Cool.
Sweet?
I like that a lot.
Go team, go.